I didn't tell Randa she was going to have a hard time getting a camera view today. I want us to focus on the light this morning. I am a third-generation immigrant from Italy and a fourth-generation immigrant from Ireland. My grandfather left home, left his family behind to come to the United States for a better life. The sacrifice, the risk, everything was so that future generations would live a better life than what he saw coming in Italy. My family were migrant workers on vineyards, pulling grapes, stomping them, and making them into wine. They never, at that point, had any thought or opportunity for ownership in any business. They were slave labor. My grandfather had heard, and after having conversations, I'm sure, with my grandmother, he didn't do this, I'm sure, without her permission, got on a boat, sailed across, landed actually in Canada, and in 1 year worked anywhere in the mines around Niagara Falls, making his way as a migrant worker in the fields to finally getting an automotive job in Canada. General Motors would end up purchasing his company and moving all their production into Detroit. He would walk across the Ambassador Bridge, in today's terms defined as an illegal immigrant, for a better life. He had 5 children. He and his wife would be reunited 5 years later. The next generation would continue on, laboring away. My father didn't know what he wanted to do as the youngest of 5. And when he left high school, a little rough around the edges, I'm sure, his sister encouraged him to just try college. And there, in his first term, found a group of men who would become forever friends. And he admits, I would not have probably stayed in school if it hadn't been for those friends. Those people I wanted to spend time with, and they were there, so I wanted to be where they were. So that propelled him to get a degree, the only one to get a degree of the 5. And that opened doors he never thought possible. And so, to offer a better life for the next generation, my father made the choice to make college a possibility for all of his kids. If we couldn't afford it, he would help us out. Because he wanted a better life for his family. And I think that those of us who have had that experience of being bestowed children want a better life for our children. That each generation subsequently looks for something better. I think we can understand that. But today on All Saints' Day, we don't only recognize those in our family and our lineage, but we also recognize those in our faith journey. Why God would come in the form of Jesus, in human form, and die on a cross is the same reason. Because he wants a better life for us all. Not a life as though, if left to our own purposes and plans, but a life that is far greater, free of guilt, free of doubt, that carry us even through the difficult times, because we know that no matter what suffering we need to endure in this life, there is a far glorious life to come. as I look back over the names of these people. Most I've had the honor to know. Most I've had the honor to sit with their family, to reflect upon the gift of that life, to find in it things that I would like to emulate in my own life more regularly. I've been at the bedside of friends that have passed from this life. And if you've ever been there, you know that there is, for those of faith, a peace and a calmness that pervades the room. It's a sad time, but it's also a happy time. There is, in my own experience, an assurance. It's almost as if as heaven opens to receive the gift of these saints. A bit of the essence of heaven leaks through. Some of us have been blessed to experience that. Stan Nichols was one such person who passed away and was revived at Medina. And he called me and said, "Brother Joe, I got to tell you something. I got a glimpse of where we are going. And I got to tell you, it's fantastic. I'm not afraid to die anymore. I'm not afraid of the moment when I take my last breath because I know what's on the other side." He had a sense of peace and assurance when he decided to place himself into hospice care that you rarely see. And there are others I've laid to rest this year that have told me before they've passed that they have, at times, and it doesn't always happen consistently, had some people who have already passed come back and be near them in the end. And I think that's for us, not for them. I think that's for us to know that life goes on. That the gift of faith, the reward of the yes, the meaning of the why of the cross becomes real. And we know that there is life eternal. So what is it we want to remember on All Saints' Day? What is it that causes us as a people, as a body, as the faithful, to remember? I think it's a day for us to remember the sacrifice of our saints. It's a day for us to remember the life that they lived that we would like to emulate. My mother used to say something to me when I was young that to me was a large insult. I would do something, she would reprimand me, I would give her a lip. The kids are gone, right? Little stubbornness would come out, and my mom would say, the apple falls not far from the tree, does it? And we all knew what she meant. And as I thought about the apple, I don't know why I was thinking about apples this time of year, not falling far from the tree, I thought this week about the biblical symbol of trees and life, and a family, a community. I thought about the saying that the whack at the root of Jesse would bring the sprout anew people. I thought about the communion meal, because the communion meal is a remembrance, but it's something more than that. And to understand what they're saying in the communion meal, what they're really telling us is, this is my body, this is my blood. How radical that was for the early church, as a group of Jewish people who weren't supposed to eat or drink blood. See, the secular world believed if they wanted to be smarter, they would drink the blood of Socrates or Plato or someone smart. You see, the blood contained the life force, and in that life force contained the characteristics and the quality. If they wanted to run faster, they would drink the blood of a cheetah. And almost in a secular way, Jesus took the Seder meal and that third cup and said, this is my blood poured out for you. I wondered if they made the connection. I want more of Christ in me, and his qualities and his characteristics. Of course, we would use a different word, grace. This unmerited gift. And I wonder if in my days, when they remember my life, if they would say, the apple doesn't fall far from the Christian tree. You see, because the Christian walk isn't just about remembrance, but transformation. And that transformation for us is to become more Christ-like. You see, that's the beauty of the prayer that Christ gives us when he's sitting at the Last Supper table with his disciples. He's either there or in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he turns to God and says, let's take a moment and pray for the faithful. Take a moment and hear these words that honor those 12. The generations that have gone before us, those in this room, and in other churches, in other places, in the mission field, and in ministry. Gracious God, I gave your word to them, and the world hated them, because they don't belong to the world, just as I don't belong to this world. I'm not asking that you take them out of this world, but that you keep them safe from the evil one. They don't belong to this world, just as I don't belong to this world. Make them holy in the truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, so I have sent them into the world. I've made myself holy on their behalf so that they also would be made holy in the truth. I'm not praying only for them, but also for those who believe in me because of their word. Friends, that's us. I pray they will be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. I pray that they also will be in us, so that the world will believe you've sent me. I give them the glory that you gave me, so that they can be one just as we are one. I am in them, you are in me, so that they will be made perfectly one. Then the world will know that you sent me, and that you have loved them just as you have loved me. Can you wrap your head around the idea that God prayed for you? Jesus knew that his death on a cross would create division. There would be some that would accept who he was finally, and some who wouldn't. but it was the witness and the practice of the saints that would bring the world to transformation. The love of a community that was sacrificial and self-giving. A community that is forgiving. A community that has its disagreements but doesn't allow the disagreements to outweigh the greater good. A community that will one day live together. Friends, it's not just the light that's up here, but the light that radiates from heaven each day. That says, you're not far away from home. I guess that thought has made it a lot easier for me to embrace the idea that the apple does not fall far from the tree. And I hope and pray that in this week, as you move forward, as you read the words in bread, as you reflect upon the life given in the gospel and the understanding of it given in the rest of the New Testament, and the reason for it given to us in the Old Testament, that you might continue to ask yourself the question, how might I live a life so that others might know Christ through me? That light becomes a reflection of the God who loved us so much. And the table that has chairs prepared for all of us when we feast together. That's why we've surrounded the communion table today with light. Because interestingly enough, if you learn Greek, and Pastor Larry can help clarify this for me, all the Gospels switch to a tense that we don't have in the English called the perfect tense. And in the perfect tense, something happens and continues to happen with a ripple effect. And in those Gospels, the writers all believed, I believe by using that verb tense uniquely, that the communion started that evening, but never ends from that day forward. And so you took communion with the saints today and every day. Let's pray. Gracious and holy God, we give you thanks for the witness that has walked before us, for the lives that inspire us to be more holy, and for the one that makes it all possible. By your glory, by your grace, we lift our hearts, our voices, our very existence in service and in faithfulness to you. And all God's children said, Amen. Amen. Friends, if there is